That's not oversight. That's pinky promise oversight.
So far, we've learned Columbia and Polk counties have had their jails inspected. Orange County is scheduled for one later this year. Palm Beach says it's planning one next month. But it's these shelters also being targeted by Governor DeSantis as part of what he describes is Biden's border crisis, which have included secret nighttime flights moving migrants, including children, into Florida with no notice and no basic detail on who's coming in. State numbers show while nearly 95% of long-term care residents in Florida are vaccinated, when it comes to the staff who care for them, just over 40% have rolled up their sleeves. Experts point to COVID fears, childcare issues, and stimulus checks as among the reasons many are still not back on the job. Last month, the U.S. added just over 260,000 jobs, far short of the expected 1 million. Too early to predict what rate hikes could look like, but a recent study found the average monthly cost for nursing home care in Florida was up 11% since 2016, nearly $1,000 more than the national average. According to the latest data, between 2019 and 2020, Florida logged nearly 36,000 Baker Act exams for kids, a decrease of more than 5% from the previous year. It didn't take long for the governor's infamously combative press team to strike back. First, calling out Freed's science and math, since her research was based on limited data from just 3 of the state's 67 school districts. Then came the string of Twitter disputes refuting claims and insults. By day's end, even the state's new Surgeon General chimed in, calling her methods weak. Inmates started getting vaccinated by age last month, while just this week, a handful of others followed suit, including jails in Pinellas, Hendry, and Palm Beach counties. It's not clear how many COVID patients each facility housed or how often they got paid for empty beds. The state only revealed that a total of 4,047 people were cared for in an isolation center, which means each patient cost Florida taxpayers on average at least $12,600. In Florida, the median income for preschool teachers is just over $12 an hour, a few pennies above the national average. More than 630 officers nationwide have succumbed to the virus, according to the Fraternal Order of Police, which tracks reported deaths. Florida among states that have lost the most officers to the illness, 57 and counting, second only to Texas. To date, 10 states, including New York and California, have passed laws mandating law enforcement use NamUs, while legislation is swiftly moving through Texas and Pennsylvania. Florida remains among the majority of U.S. states that make reporting to NamUs voluntary for law enforcement. Alachua, Leon, Duval, and the Broward County School District made headlines this week for defying the governor's orders. We've learned Brevard and Miami-Dade County schools are also discussing its student mask future.
Parents are going to kick down the door and drag you out by your hair.
They were going to come at me like a freight train, and I was going to have to beg for mercy, that they would be at my house every single day. They would make me want to move.
These are just a few of the threats school board member Jennifer Jenkins and Shirley Brown say they face since last year, starting with Black Lives Matter to critical race theory and most recently, school masks. That has grown to more than 150 chapters across 33 states, with a nationwide membership roster they estimate at roughly 60,000. From lumber to chlorine, chicken to cat food. By now, you've heard product shortages are back or never really left.
We're paying our people overtime to get the same job done.
I think we have to admit that contact tracing has just not worked.
This is what Florida's governor recently concluded about the state's contact tracing program.
I think it's largely been ineffective.
But before we go any farther, we need to give you a glimpse at the past. From the beginning of the pandemic,
testing also goes hand in hand with what we call contact tracing.
The state's top health leaders touted the practice.
This is a way that we actually stop the cycle of transmission from person to person.
But the centuries-old tool that traces an infected person's physical contacts to help stop the spread of dangerous diseases soon became a focal point of scrutiny in the state.
We need at minimum 30 contact tracers per 100,000 people.
We had to scurry to go hire epidemiologists because we didn't have as many employed as we should have, and we still don't.
Then those who should have been contacted told us,
I didn't get a phone call. I still haven't gotten a phone call.
One state lawmaker who did.
Phone disconnected and you never got a call back.
We need a new system.
With cases surging in their communities, some elected leaders deem the state's program a failure.
I've called it abysmal. I've called it ineffective. I've called it the equivalent of not having a program.
Despite nearly a dozen requests we've made over the past 9 months, we still don't know how many people have been successfully called, traced, or even how the state measures its success. We did discover online last summer the state hired an outside company to boost its contact tracing efforts and, quote, prevent the spread of COVID-19. Just over 1,000 tracers in the first few months of the pandemic grew to more than 4,000 by August. The state's contract also ballooned and now stands at nearly $74 million for work the governor now says didn't work.
There's not a place you can say it's really bent the epidemic curve downward.
Which brings us back to the governor's most recent sentiments.
I think, unfortunately, it's not been something that's been terribly effective in Florida or throughout the country.
But just how ineffective contact tracing has been here, we don't know. The state nor local health departments, which do most of the tracing work, will give anything up. The cold shoulder, not just towards us.
There was too much transmission to be chasing it down using contact tracing.
Dr. Thomas Haladish is a University of Florida research scientist hired by the health department last year to forecast the virus using data. But when he asked about the state's contact tracing data,
the folks involved who are responsible for the contact tracing program didn't have time to talk to us about what they were doing because all of their resources were allocated to containment.
It was very clear that we were not prepared.
Dalton Price is a former contact tracer who worked for the health department in Volusia County last year. By summer, the caseload was overwhelming.
We were so behind that people, by the time we reached out to them, would have already been done with their 10-day quarantine or 14-day quarantine.
Couple that with what Price said was people's frequent unwillingness to cooperate with tracers. It might help explain why the state has been less than transparent with its tracing numbers. Still, Price takes issue with the governor's conclusions about the program.
I would say overall it was successful. The shortcomings were largely brought about by his administration's response in Florida, which, he largely denounced the pandemic and infused distrust in kind of the public health response that we saw.
I think was a blanket statement that was a bit misleading.
USF's Dr. Marissa Levine also disagrees with the governor. Though not involved in the state's contact tracing program, the public health expert explains how the practice has helped Florida stay open, especially on campus.
Contact tracing helped us see that cases related to school children did not come from the schools themselves. They came from the community.
Everyone agrees the state started tracing too late. It took too long to expand. And what exactly the state's data shows remains a big unknown. A year and tens of millions of contact tracing dollars later. It's far from a new trend. In fact, bystander video capturing police interacting with the public is now the norm.
It's not illegal to record.
Please. Even considered a critical tool in the battle to weed out bad cops.
Y'all just really just killed that man.
This is your current address?
But a recent appellate court ruling against a mom who recorded the arrest of her teenage son is raising questions over when filming police can land you in a Florida jail. And some top cops here are concerned about its unintended consequences moving forward.
This is a big setback, in my opinion, because now you're saying, hey, we don't want you recording now. That's what a lot of people are going to take out of this.
Just wait off to the side for a moment.
Boynton Beach, 2009.
Okay, come here.
Police call a mom after her teenage son tried to sneak into a movie theater.
Can I come back over?
You sure can.
She shows up with a camera, rolling.
Excuse me, are you recording that with audio?
Oh, now you're going to arrest me.
Police ordered her to stop recording. She refused. According to court records, even lied about it, didn't answer their questions, and eventually became confrontational, but never physical.
No, I'm just asking questions, okay? I'm a mother, I'm a concerned parent. parent, I have that right.
In the end, Mom was arrested for obstruction or interfering with police doing their job. While her criminal charges were dropped, she filed a civil rights lawsuit and lost on appeal last week. One of 3 judges strongly opposed the arrest.
Do you think this could set a dangerous precedent in Florida?
Chief Nathan Osgood leads the Riviera Beach Police Department.
If it's misinterpreted or misunderstood, yes, it could.
A predominantly black city in Palm Beach County.
We're pushing for police reform, police accountability, the whole public, everybody's pushing for it. And then all of a sudden, something like this come about, it says just the opposite.
That's because while recording police is legal and even encouraged by many law enforcement agencies, obstruction remains a gray area at the discretion of police.
I want to make sure that officers can't say, well, the courts have said we can do this.
St. Petersburg Police Chief Anthony Holloway says obstruction while filming is often confusing and controversial.
Tell me more facts before you tell me you put someone in jail for just recording you on the side of the streets.
While some states have taken legislative steps to clarify what interfering with police really means, Martin County Sheriff's Major John Budensik says it often boils down to a matter of distance.
Had she stayed off to the side and simply videoed what was taking place, there would have been no problem. She would have never gotten arrested.
The reality is what we have to look at is what actually happened there. She was not an innocent bystander. She didn't take out her phone just to record something she saw other people involved in.
Chief Michael Gregory now leads the Boynton Beach Police Department. He was not with the agency when this incident occurred.
If that incident happened now involving your officers, what would be your response?
I can't speculate on exactly what I would think.
So now you're going to arrest me.
But Gregory is clear the ruling doesn't impact the department's views on transparency, accountability, and moving forward, like all law enforcement agencies, to improve the public's trust, with or without cameras rolling.
You're actually obstructing it, resisting it, or trying to oppose that investigation, then you're violating the law and you can be arrested for obstruction. It's not about the camera or the reporting.
The homemade Spätzle, German pasta. We are Bon Appetit restaurant, known for European influenced food and European service.
Bon Appetit, this is Cheryl speaking.
Bon Appetit, a German Bavarian fine dining restaurant. I'm a hostess. The hostess with the mostest is what I hear. The mostest.
Because that's the whole point, right? I am one of the front of the house managers. I'm kind of like our general manager's right-hand man. Okay. Oh, the Tucher Dunkel. I was born in Germany. I was born in a little teeny tiny town called Zweibrücken.
Born in Rosenheim, and most people don't even know where that is.
When we left was the last time that I was there. We had plans to go there last year and COVID happened.
It's just been too difficult with everything that's going on nowadays. I long for being home every day. It would just be really nice to say that I could be home.
I'm gonna cut a couple of onions real fine. Normally I go home every year, but unfortunately the last 2 years got messed up.
Oktoberfest for me was all about being able to be thankful for what you had.
The whole big beer garden tent, it means coming together, and it means a culmination of the whole year.
Now here come the Spätzle.
Obviously beer would be the top of the list.
The Rotkohl is the red cabbage.
I personally love a good Hefeweizen.
Wait, you said beer? Yeah.
Schnitzels.
The Bratkartoffeln is like fried potatoes.
You can never go wrong with Kartoffelsalat, potato salad.
Sausages, veganische Duck.
Apfelstrudel, that's, apple strudel.
Anything that's got a gherkin in it.
Roast pork.
It kind of ties it all in together, and you're like, okay, I'm home.
That's thankfully what Bon Appetit was able to provide. I'm home. This is as close to home as I'm going to get, and they're not getting rid of me anytime soon.